What is going on, everyone? Mike Singer and Tim Hyde. We are live on YouTube with this week's Notre Dame football show. Pod Like a Champion if listening via podcast. Hope everyone is doing well. Got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're good. Tim Hyde's reaction to the AD changes at Notre Dame. I know it's kind of last week's news at this point, but we haven't heard from Tim on the news, so we will talk to Tim Hyde about that and a bunch of Notre Dame recruiting updates as well. So if you're with us live or watching back, please do go ahead and hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content. And if you are listening via podcast, please leave us a kind review wherever you may get your podcasts. But yeah, Tim, without further ado, my friend, how are you doing? What's new in your world?
Happy Wednesday to everybody. Look forward to doing a little talking with everyone. No, life is good. So one day closer, 1 week closer to the season kicking off. So this is that lull, and watched a little bit of you and Goolsby the other night. Haven't finished it yet, but caught a little bit of you guys, and the same thing. It's like, all right, let's just get going. We're into June. Guys are starting the summer workouts, and let's get rocking. So it's going to be a fun season coming up.
Yeah, fun show with Mike Goolsby the other night, talking about some Notre Dame recruits as well as the AD stuff. So make sure, if you missed that, which I'm sure you haven't, make sure you go watch that or listen to that podcast. But I always recommend the YouTube because, you get more bang for your buck with the visuals there. Yeah, like you mentioned, Tim, 73 days until Notre Dame versus Navy. How about that?
Yeah, I'm not counted the 73. Holy moly! So we got to get going here. Camp's starting rolling. That's coming up.
I was about to say, I don't know if that makes it feel closer or farther away, but or further away. Yeah.
So are they going to start camp? I wonder if they're going to start the last week in July.
They got early.
A week. Yeah. They haven't announced anything.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, just thought of that now since 73 days away. So they must.
Well, that's a recruiting week for Notre Dame. The last week of July is always the dead period lifts, and you can have unofficial visits.
And little barbecue they've been doing the last few years.
Yeah. Gotcha. The grill and chill.
The grill and chill. There you go.
I'm not reporting it yet because I need to confirm with another source. So I'm hearing of a big visitor for Notre Dame that week as well on the recruiting front. So the staff will be in town.
Do not come on. Chicago's down the road. Is that the grill and chill? Oh, there goes the rumor mill. There we go.
Hey,
I'm not saying anything. Right?
Neither am I. That would be pretty sweet though if it's that guy that you're saying.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Bring some Starbucks coffee and some pastries, and we'll be good.
Yeah, stay tuned, I guess. First topic of discussion, Tim. Jack Swarbrick out. There's no AD search for Father Jenkins. It's Pete Bevekwa lined up right away. Did you have much of a reaction to this, Tim? When you heard the news, what was your initial thought?
Yeah, Google and. I put in the name. I mean, that's probably what every single Notre Dame fan did. Like, who? And I was impressed. I mean, my first reaction on him was like, okay, I like the fact that he's basically a sports attorney. His whole life has been in sports. I think that's huge. Jack Swarbrick came from the corporate world. He was a lawyer there, obviously as an alum as well, but he's a sports attorney. I think that's massive. Like, he's been in the ins and outs of so many things in his tenure. And I don't know, that's what really got me going was that. And obviously the NBC thing, you start, pinching, the holes together and start punching things together and adding everything up. And you start to see, okay, do a little bit more reading. And I mean, he is like in deep with Notre Dame, all the things that they've been going on with NBC, I would put 2 and 2 together. They're probably going to re-up with NBC. I would not, that was one of my other first things was, all right, this guy's not taking the Notre Dame job unless he knows what the heck he's getting into, meaning the television contract, so because he's the one that's been doing that, obviously, with Jack Swarbrick and Notre Dame. So I was impressed on that. Obviously, the big thing, you read his resume, I like the fact that he, I know Goolsby said walk on. Yeah, he was a walk on, but he was there. He was, he knows what a big time football looked like, at least from the sidelines, right? During those glory. I mean, he was there with 89, 90, 91, 92 on the football team. And he was around some dudes. So I think that's exciting. And then the last thing I would say is just the networking. I think that's going to be a big function of this moving forward is all the connections he has from his PGA, NBC, and these are massive corporations. So his Rolodex is going to be pretty thick, and he's going to be able to talk to a lot of people, I think, as he evolves into the Notre Dame AD job. So I'm excited. And I love the fact that he's coming in here in a few weeks and going to just do basically a 6-month intern. And I know Swarbrick's talking about the apparel deal, and so many other things are going to be happening pretty soon, and he's going to be a part of that.
Yeah, I do like that. Those guys will get to work together. So he will get to go through that. Roger asked, "What's his views on NIL?" I don't know. Haven't heard from him. Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Did you get to the point in the Goolsby show where we were giving our thoughts on if this was a good get for Notre Dame? Did you get to that part?
Yeah, just a little bit. I heard Mike wasn't. I guess he wasn't a big fan.
Mike said more of the same, and I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. I don't know how it's the same, because Swarbrick was a corporate lawyer in the courtroom and things of that nature. This guy's doing NFL deals, Sunday Night Football, Big Ten football, correct? The big deal that the Big Ten just did. This is the guy that signed the contract. This is the guy that did all that contract, which leads me to go, all right, which means he's probably, as a Notre Dame alum, he's talking to Swarbrick and letting him know what's going on the side and things of that nature. I know Swarbrick has talked about getting more Big Ten teams on the schedule, which they do have, by the way, in a couple of years. So is the schedule going to start being more Big Ten ACC as it's NBC driven with some of those preseason games? So I was just excited just because of the sports, and the gentleman who just asked, what about NIL? Well, you got NBC. I mean, who's to say there's not corporate people part of NBC that are helping and dishing things out to work with Notre Dame football players down the road. Once again, it's going back to that Rolodex. I didn't finish it. I wanted to go back and re-listen to Goolsby, and I haven't talked to him yet about his thoughts. I would, when he says more of the same, I didn't understand what he meant by that, because I think it's completely different. I mean, more of the same, if you're saying it's a Notre Dame guy, well, yeah, they're going to hire a Notre Dame guy. I think that's going to be true down the road here.
I do like Tim that he has a Notre Dame degree. I think that's a pretty good thing, especially if you're a Notre Dame coach on the recruiting trail and you say, "Hey, we pitched 4 for 40." You can just look at your athletic director and be like, "Hey, this guy who's calling the shots here for our football program, he was on the football team." Again, maybe you don't need to broadcast who's a walk-on punter,
Sure.
but still a national championship player. Hey, the facts are the facts. Jack Swarbrick, 69 years old, I believe. Nice. Bevekwa, 51. So, I mean, you're getting a
20 years.
younger guy, maybe a little bit more energy. Not that Jack didn't. I'm not going to pretend to know all the ins and outs of exactly what Jack what his day-to-day duties look like. But it just seems like it's a good time to go from the older lawyer to the younger broadcast chairman, NBC Sports Group chairman. Like that to me sounds like, all right, this is a good athletics director for the future. He seems to check the boxes for me, right? In today's world, you need the broadcast and the NIL, and it makes sense. And he's got the Notre Dame degree. So
no, I was going to say, on top of that, it's the shaking hands. I mean, you got a guy that's been involved in NBC sports, so it's Sunday Night Football. I mean, I haven't gone back. I'm sure NBC's had a Super Bowl. There's probably on this year. Once again, I don't keep track of the TV and watching the game. So, you got Super Bowls, obviously Notre Dame football, the Big Ten contract, just so many things that he's been a part of. And I watched a great interview that, Notre Dame had done a few years ago, I think back in 2016 before COVID. Yeah. Swarbrick did interviews and they posted that. And it's like, yeah, this guy's a sharp talker. You could see him shaking hands, enjoying the cocktail party circuit at Notre Dame. And I know Mike talked about Notre Dame being a little stuffy at times. Yeah. True. That probably is, but yeah, that goes in with Notre Dame. So that's kind of the way of doing things. And I know someone Another big question I'm sure people in the chat are talking about, I know even on the message board, is, oh, does this mean they're going to a conference? My initial reaction was no. I don't see how, going back to the football thing, unless he's just anti Notre Dame football and I want to join the conference. I would say no. I think he's going to be the AD. I think he knows what the TV deal is. I think he knows scheduling, all those things moving forward. The ACC, me personally, unless something just crazy happens, which it has in 2 years, correct, Mike? I don't see the ACC breaking up, not with that grant of rights and all these. If there was going to be a breakup, lawyers know how to get out of things. Don't you think they would have gotten out of something in the last 2 years when all this craziness has happened, and they haven't? So I think the ACC is going to be around a little bit longer here, so that gives Notre Dame some time. So I think Notre Dame can survive constantly being independent. They have tons of games locked in. The one interesting thing is the SEC, because they have a lot of SEC games coming up, and they're more than likely going to go to 9. But is the SEC going to do 9 plus a Power 5? That's something I know Saban has talked about when they go to 9. Is, are we going to drop these out of conference games down the road? So like next year, Alabama plays Wisconsin, but it's 8. In 2 years, when they go 9, will they drop it? Like Notre Dame's got A&M, Arkansas coming up, Florida, Alabama at the end of this decade. So that's going to be interesting to see how the Notre Dame and SEC, because me personally, I am fingers crossed they have at least one SEC home and home every 2 years from here to eternity. And that would be awesome.
Yeah. So just so you guys know, I'm very clear on this. 51, spry young person. Okay, if you're 51, you're a youngin. Okay, you can go to the bars that Mike Singer's hanging out with. That's what I'm saying.
Love it.
All right, folks, we're going to before we move on, get into some recruiting talk, which we're going to debate rankings, which is always fun.
Oh.
I don't know where that discussion's going to go, but we will just see. We're going to hear from our sponsors over at the Rogue Shop. It's the husband and wife outfit. Mr. Rogue and his wife Shar are craft cannabis farmers who specialize in small batch sustainable plant medicine, a true holistic type of small business. They farm and grow everything themselves and do everything by hand. Website to visit is, of course, rogueshop.com. They sell everything, folks. You've heard me read this ad before. You can probably recite it with me. CBD, THC, edibles, tinctures, smokables, bath salts, pain creams, topicals, vapes, candles, soaps, and if you can believe it, there's even more. Their website has a 24/7 chat function where you can hop on the website and ask Mr. Rogan Shar any questions you may have. Go to rogueshop.com if you have issues sleeping, chronic pain, and or have anxiety, stress issues. And you can use promo code blue and gold. That is one word, blue and gold, to get 10% off your order over at rogueshop.com. And I will tell you guys, they're like Mr. Rogue, they're in charge. They're great people, really, really good people. So if you're interested in that realm, rogueshop.com. Tell them Mike Singer sent you, and that would be great. Okay. So, rankings, Mr. Hyde. So I posted an article at blueandgold.com. I can find, if I can find it. Let's see where it was. Nope, that's not it. But it was about, look, CJ Carr, Notre Dame's quarterback commit in the 2024 class, is going to the Elite 11 finals in Los Angeles this week. And I talked to Charles Power about what do you want to see from Carr this week? And this is a premium article at blueandgold.com, so you can head to the website and check it out if you are a website member. And if you are not, I don't know what the heck you're doing. We always have fantastic promos, so you should absolutely go check it out if you can. If you got that kind of cash flow in your pocket, which you don't need a lot. But anyways, again, I'm not going to read Power's quote on here because, again, it was in that premium article, but he had, the gist was Carr has been so good on Friday nights that we really, or excuse me, he's been, let me start over. He's been so good in the camp settings that there's not really a whole lot new that we can see from him, because anytime Carr goes to camp, he looks phenomenal. But I guess the progression that they want to see is more on Friday nights. Carr had some really good moments in his junior season. I mean, Saline utterly dominated a lot of competition, but then they had some games that were, not so good, and Carr struggled from time to time, against the better competition, but then also Carr's team, wasn't amazing either. So, but I don't think these talent scouts really are looking at your wins and losses or even stats super much, or so much at the high school level as much, Tim, as just how you look on film. So I'll ask you to kind of kick off this discussion, and folks watching on YouTube live with us, you can let us know your thoughts as well, and let us know in the comments if you're watching back. But like, how important do you think, like, or if you were there, Tim, at this Elite 11 finals, how much would you take into consideration, like what you do at a camp? All right, I'm going to continue before you answer that, because he's like, listen, I would like to see, the arm strength. Like, that's one thing that I want to see, like just his stature, his arm strength, and how he looks in that setting. Because look, I'm not really going to base my rankings off of who wins the accuracy competition, which, and everyone on our message board at blueandgold.com was saying, well, Charles Power doesn't care about accuracy. No, that's not what he was saying. He was saying that who gets the most points in throwing the ball into a bag in shorts and t-shirts in Los Angeles, California in June is not really a big indicator on what your ranking should be. And thank God that it's not. All right. That's all I got, Tim. That was a lot of rambling. Thoughts on all this?
No, I mean, me personally, I love the Elite 11. I mean, I've been to a few of them before. That's where I went to high school, Redondo High School. I don't know if they're still doing it at Redondo these days. So great location, great high school stadium. And those guys, yeah, I mean, by the way, the message board today with you and everyone else has been the best. I'm going to screenshot it. It's some of the best days message chats of all time. And yeah, it's a lot more than just throwing into baskets and nets, as you like to say, which I thought was awesome today. Which it is. Those guys put them through the ringer. They're doing playbooks. They're doing drawing up on whiteboards, memorizing, so much coaching and stuff like that. And then you go out there and it's not the same every day. They do have a pro day, which is based off of the NFL Combine, testing these guys just like the Combine. And then they have their accuracy throws, which Carr is dynamic. He should be awesome, when they do that stuff. So they got a ton of wide receivers. Over the years, it's gotten bigger with a lot of wide receivers are starting to go out there. Tons of guys with, Division I Power 5 offers are going to this camp. So I think it's important because I think it's a heck of a camp. I mean, who went last year is the Oklahoma guy went there. He had already had a lot of hype and stuff like that. He went out there and just blew everyone out of the water at the camp and just blew him up to 5-star status. And then obviously he went out and did it during his senior year. So I think it's a good camp. I mean, do you put all your eggs into it? No, but as Mike Singer loves to say, it's a huge data point, and it's all about these little, ticks on the board that you mark off. So I think it's going to be a great thing because they're doing it so much more, like the little sidearm throw he did right there off platform. They're doing more of that stuff instead of just your traditional 3-step, 5-step drop back. So many things that go into it. And all anyone has to do is go on YouTube, type in Elite 11, and there's a billion films on there you can watch of these quarterbacks and see the drills they do. So I'm excited to see CJ Carr and see how this thing rolls this week. There are some really good quarterbacks. That's been talked about a ton. Like, this is a down year in quarterbacks. At least top 10. You take the top 10. I think the top 10 in the country, if Notre Dame had any of these guys in the top 10, even top 12, we would be happy as could be. There are some electric quarterbacks in this class.
Yeah, the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, the top 8 quarterbacks per the industry ranking are all there.
Yeah.
Georgia has 2 quarterback commits there. It's a really good group.
Yes.
As we scroll through the list,
and and the whole, a lot of this is, obviously the Notre Dame fans are, the pitchforks and going crazy about Carr's ranking. He's a top 10 quarterback. I mean, he's the top 50 in the country per the consensus. To me, that's what matters. Who cares what one ranks him or whatever? There's 4 services over the course of 4 different philosophies, 4 different criterias, 4 different ways of interpreting data and film and whatnot. He's a top 50 top 50 national player. I think that's what matters, and which means he's a heck of a football player. And Notre Dame's getting one of the premier quarterbacks in the country, and we should be excited.
I really think that although these rankings are just kind of they're just good for fodder and
Mhm.
entertainment. I mean that it, I think it can kind of paint a picture of how crappy we can be as people that we can't listen to the other people or we can't listen to other thought process. It's like I disagree with your ranking of CJ Carr. I am now dismissing you as at your job. Like like why can't we just say, oh, you don't think CJ is very good? Then huh? That's interesting. This is what I'm going to go back to, Tim. When Notre Dame lands a commitment from Teddy Rizak, he has he's the number 800 something player in the country, right? Where's everyone going? Why are they just taking 3 stars, right? So when you do that, what you're saying is these rankings are very, very important, and I'm going to listen to the
Mhm.
ranking to guide my thoughts on these players. So if Charles Power ranks them, now you're saying that this is no good. So you're saying, "Oh, this ranking's stupid. This guy doesn't." Well, is he stupid with Teddy Rizak, or is he like, are these things gospel or not? So that's my thing. Is where I go back to data points. Just take it as a data point. You have all these really good things about CJ Carr, but then there's this one guy who doesn't have him ranked as high. Like, that's kind of interesting, right?
And
Just take it from
and then you could go on. I mean, you and I had a conversation on last week. Some guy was just going crazy on the rankings, and you had, responded on our YouTube, and I did a couple as well. And it's like, and who ranks CJ Carr the highest? The one group that no one likes, no one listens to, and it's ESPN has them in the top 3. So ESPN is 100% correct on this one, correct? Yet everyone, how many times do we see in our YouTube comments, ESPN's trash, it's like, yet they have them number 3. So it's one of 4. It's the way I look at it. It's one of 4. You roll from there. The people that are upset with the on 3 ranking, fine, but watch the film. And I could easily justify CJ Carr being the 3rd or 4th quarterback in this class. I don't think he's in the top couple. I just don't. I think there's some studs. But I could also say, okay, so he's the 10th ranked quarterback in this class, if you really look at it and whatnot. I think at the end of the day, he's going to be, what is he, 5 in the consensus now? I think he's
6.
going to be,
6.
I
Rivals
think,
had an update the other
I,
day, so yeah, dropped down.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he's going to be 5'7", maybe 8. Does that drop? I think there's some underappreciated quarterbacks in this class that I think are going to keep going up and up. So that's my opinion on him. He's a good quarterback. Notre Dame's getting a top 10 quarterback in the country. That is rarefied air, over the last decade, so to speak, when you look at it.
It wouldn't be a Notre Dame football show if we weren't talking about rankings. So, yeah. Tim says if the rankings make Notre Dame look good, I like them. If they make Notre Dame look bad, they are trash. Tim,
Well,
you have Tim, you have. Go ahead, Mr. Hyde.
No, I was going to say the rankings. I mean, what's the other conversation this week? People are talking about Styles Prescott. Oh, why isn't he this? Why isn't he this? Yeah, down 3 ranks him as the 10th best, lineman in their category. So
Yeah.
once again, someone has them really high on their evaluations and their projections. Others have them as the 40th best player. So it's like, okay, somewhere lies in the middle, and there's your consensus. That's, at least, when I do data points, looking at rankings, I just focus on those.
Which is why we do like the industry ranking. Yeah.
Yes.
On 3 has him as the number 189 overall player, number 10 interior offensive lineman. ESPN has him as a 4-star and outside of their national rankings. Everyone and 24/7 Rivals has him as 3-star. But yeah, I was like, why is he listed as an interior guy? Because on 3 thinks he projects best as an interior guy. So I guess that's where they're going to rank him. I don't know. I'd put him as a tackle, but again, I think we can have discussions and guys. I see Charles Power all the time. He's a really good dude. Really like hanging out with him, and I'm just like, hey, Charles. Every single time I see him, first thing I say, "Come on, man, CJ Carr, what are you doing?" But I don't have to say, "I hate you. You don't know what you don't know how to do your job. What are you doing? You're like, why do we have to be like that, people? Just,
Uh,
I tell him he's wrong on CJ Carr. He gives me his opinion, which is honestly the same exact opinion that he'll give me on the record as off the record, which I respect about him too. And then we'll talk about something else. But
and then you gotta respect, and he comes out, he says what he believes. He basically has a philosophy. They have a blueprint that they follow, and that's what they do.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they watch a ton of film, and he's one of 4 that heads up recruiting services. He's the one of the 4 guys. So it's go from there.
But yeah, Tim, what I do love about this comment, Tim B, I'm talking to the commenter here, is just say you're biased. Like, right, if CJ Carr were committed to Michigan, you would say he's worse than that. You would. Yeah. That's just the truth.
One of my favorites when we got into the pot of gold way back when on this class was Julian Sayin. I love Julian Sayin. If Julian Sayin was the Notre Dame, if Tommy Rees wanted him over CJ Carr, we would be going crazy on Julian Sayin. Instead, they're like, oh, he's going to Alabama. That's the only reason why he's ranked high. No, he's a damn good quarterback. And if CJ Carr went to where his entire family went, Michigan, there in Ann Arbor, yeah, you're right. Oh, he sucks. We hate Michigan. Coming to Notre Dame, so we go over and above.
I want to say something. This conversation that Tim and I are having, we're disagreeing with our listeners for the most part. Like if you're watching, listening, you probably are like, man, screw that Singer guy. I like his takes on some other things, but screw him on this. This is like, again, this is not popular. I know exactly what we should do, Tim and I, if we just want to have the popular takes from among the Notre Dame fans that might boost ratings a little bit, but we're not going to do that. We are going to shoot you guys straight. So that's just what we are. So Tim B, I really do appreciate this comment because just tell me you're biased. Just tell me. Like I appreciate this. I am very biased about Steve Angeli. I tell you guys all the time, love the kid and love the family. I'm very biased when it comes to Steve Angeli. I also think he's very good at quarterback, but
like real quick, talking about the Elite 11, like one quarterback I had never really watched much at all. And about 2 months ago, Aaron Nolan going to Ohio State. I'm like, who is this Aaron Nolan? I thought it was a 7-on-7 team. I kept seeing him on all these articles. You watch his film, and you're telling me you wouldn't want that guy in South Bend throwing the football for you? That guy is a stud. So there's so many good DJ Lagway. Some don't like him, some do. I think he's a stud. If not the best quarterback in this class. He's outstanding.
All right, a couple super chats from Trash and Andrew Gilmore. Appreciate these recurring viewers always dropping comments and super chats. Trash says, you need a touchdown to win from your 10-yard line, and you have Jimmy Clausen, Ian Book, and Brady Quinn on your team. Who are you sending in, Tim?
So we 3rd and 2, 3rd and 18. 3rd and 18, yeah. You got a couple sacks and you're down. I don't know. I'm just making up stuff. It's like, what is the situation? Yeah, Jimmy beat Purdue, but down inside the red zone on 1 foot, the little in and out little Susie route, I call it, there to Kyle Rudolph. You got obviously Ian Book, the zone read keeper against Michigan in 18. Obviously the beat Vatek in 19 at the end with the scramble. Poor Brady Quinn, man, had one of the greatest iconic runs in Notre Dame Stadium history, the QB scramble to take the lead against SC in 05. It's like, man, there's some great moments those guys did. So if you have one, it's like, what's the situation? I mean, I'll go Brady Quinn.
Yeah,
I'll go Brady Quinn. I'll go Brady Quinn, physical, strong. If he's got to run QB draw to go get it. When I think Brady Quinn, great moments, red zone, it's always that SC game. The way he just drove down for that somewhat of a winning touchdown for a moment in time against 05 SC. But, I'd take Brady Quinn. But all of them had great moments down there.
Yeah. You guys know Brady Quinn made me cry when I was a kid. As a Georgia Tech fan.
Georgia Tech, yeah, you mentioned that.
Was it 2006?
They went down to Atlanta and beat Calvin Johnson.
14-10 game. Yes, yeah. I cried like a baby that night. Like the last Georgia Tech team, I think maybe 2009 actually. But yeah, I couldn't tell you a single player in Georgia Tech's roster right now. Well, I probably could if I really thought about it just from recruiting. But anyways. Okay, Tim, before we get to the next super chat from Andrew Gilmore, I just wanted to go back to the car situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where, so this comment from Chief made me think of what I'm about to say. He says, I am completely objective when I'm biased about Notre Dame. And I'm like, yeah, that's funny. I follow the local MLS, Major League Soccer team in Atlanta United. I go to as many games as I can. There's a local newspaper guy who has a podcast about the team, and I send in questions for almost every single one of the podcasts. And my questions are like, fire the coach, or why aren't we firing the coach? Why aren't we benching the goalkeeper? And he's laughing at me. My questions. He's like, and he knows who I am. He knows like I'm a journalist. We follow each other on Twitter and everything. And he'll tease me on the podcast. He's like, really? Like you do my job covering Notre Dame. Like, what do you? He doesn't say that on his podcast and maybe privately, but I'm thinking to myself, this is exactly how the Notre Dame fans are, right? In my I'm the Notre Dame fan in that scenario, and it's funny to me to be like, when I am sending in questions, being like, all right, what's actually a good question, or what's just total fan clouded things? Because after every loss, every single question for the podcast is fire the manager, and I've maybe done that too.
Well, speaking of fan thing, someone just said, once again, we got the Cam Williams drops out of 5-star rankings. What Cam Williams is not a 5-star. I don't understand this. Please bring this up.
Yeah,
we talked about this a month ago.
Yeah. I think on 24/7, their composite ranking had a method.
Even though he's a 4-star in all 4, but he's a 5-star. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's because if you're in the top 32, I think, which I don't like it. Are you a 5-star or are you not a 5-star? But I guess for the industry or composite or whatever, I mean, it's splitting hairs. That's why the 4 versus 5 stars, right? For your blue chip ratio, Tim. That's why I don't like it, because there's such a big difference in this 4-star level that's just on the brink of 5-star versus the guy who's just on the brink of being a 4-star and is more of a 3-star, 4-star borderline. But the number 450 player in the country is equal to the number 36 per just.
Well, 450. 450 is a 3-star, right? It only goes up to 400, I think, for the 4 stars. If I
thought it was 450, but I could be wrong.
Maybe on the on 3 ranking, but the consensus is 400. It's funny you say that. I've actually started a little, Tim Hyde research project here, and been going back, breaking down 5 stars, then top 50. And then one thing I've noticed is a gentleman on the Blue and Gold message board is awesome. He's always talking about ratings. And really, your top 100, I know we always say top 100, but in all actuality, it's about a 93. So if you're a 93 rating, you're a top 100 player. Like Notre Dame's had a handful of guys 108, 115, but they're in that 93. They're only a millipoints away. Been breaking that down. And then I've been on this kick about top 250, which is really an NFL draft. Who are the Notre Dame loading up on 250 guys, going back to Freeman in the 22, 23 classes has gotten more at Notre Dame in the previous, 10 years under Kelly. So starting to highlight those, but I get your point about the 3s, high 3s, low 3s, things of that nature. But
the blue chip ratio is what? It's what?
It's a huge, it's a fun data point. Fun data point. Yeah, we need to do a show next week. I haven't really gotten into it. I've only seen it. We need to dive into that maybe next week and break down the teams, because I know Notre Dame's once again in the top 10, I believe.
Or the rankings?
Blue chip ratio, I believe, heading into this season. So,
well, I guess the guy Bud Elliott, I believe, he came up. It's more about not these teams win a national championship. It's if
you're on a list.
Yeah, or it's more of you have the opportunity to win it. So yes. I think, again, it has some merit. I think it's interesting.
Because and he also, in one of his articles, is, because everyone that's had, everyone's been 50% going back to this since 2010. I think it started with Cam Newton, who's right at 50. Someone may prove me wrong, maybe it's 2011. Then there's only been a couple teams that have been right on the cusp of, winning it with 48, 49%, which, but they didn't. So once again, it's that upper echelon. As long as you have 50, and if you have 70, you have a huge shot. The crazy thing is, well, like I said, I only saw the photo edits, and that is Bama's got. Everyone says Bama's going down, which just cracks me up. By the way, 90% of their football team is 4 or 5. So that's not bad. 90. That is insane.
Tim, you know when I was like, hey man, maybe we'll go 45 minutes for this show, and yeah, we're not going 45 minutes.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. Well, yeah, I know. We get on these kicks.
I know, and it's fun.
It's always rankings. Rankings always get started.
All right. One more quick thing that we go to super chat from Andrew.
Sure.
David says, what's the story with the new receiver from Idaho who's now ranked higher than Cam Williams and some other top receiver? I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. Okay. This is news to me. I never even heard of this kid.
Oh, yeah. Bama offered him a while back. I think even Georgia. He's kind of like Nelson, the Nebraska tight end, as far as this guy in the middle of nowhere. You watch his film and you're like, wow, he's pretty athletic.
So he's lower than Cam, according to the ranking and On3's rankings. But yes, I mean, geez, 24/7. This is a great receiver class, by the way. Yeah, there you go. It's pretty interesting.
He's pretty talented. I've only watched.
All right, Tim, we're not spending time on Idaho wide receivers. We got to keep going.
No, but he is
Andrew says tough to win without elite edge talent. Michigan defensive ends turned them in 2021. Do you see Notre Dame trying to flip someone at edge? Maybe a Darius Hayes, a Florida commit. Thank you for the super chat. My read right now is with the 4 defensive line commits right now, and see if I can remember all their names off the top of my head.
We got Thomas,
Sevillano, Mullins, Thomas, and Young.
Yeah.
I think they're good, but they'll take rushing and or Scott. But I just have a feeling. Let's say they lose out on rushing and Scott. Ooh, I know. Let's say they both do. Then I think that they might readdress that and go take a 5th. They'll take a flyer on somebody or be able to flip someone. You know, a lot of these reports from guys like me, I'm like, oh, this is what Notre Dame's looking to take. It's as of now, these things are very subject to change. So Hayes, I doubt. I think that ship has sailed. I saw him tweet the other day, like, hey, I am taking other visits, but don't y'all worry, I'm 100% Florida. I'm like, I mean, I wouldn't feel great about that. Yeah, if my wife told me she's going on dates with other guys, I don't know how I'd feel about it. But
guys, yeah, you never know. I mean, not everyone's Peyton Bowen. You know, sometimes guys just like a free steak, so and they do it. But great question. Yeah, they need edge talent, but the way Notre Dame's positioning their ends is, once again, Viper is really an outside linebacker. It's a linebacker rush guy. Jordan Botello, as much as we talk about him being a rusher and all that, he's played, I almost said drop linebacker, the old Bob Davie term. He's been the rover. He's been the outside linebacker to the wide side. They moved him to the rush end, the Viper. Tuialamaka was a Mike. They moved him out there. So that's the evolving under Marcus Freeman going into his 3rd year of his defense. If you right. That's what he wants that position to be. Like Logan Thomas is perfect for that. Stand-up rush guy who could drop. That's what that position's going into.
Yep. So here is the edge in the class.
Yeah. And Andrew says, yeah, I mean, he's the edge. And then I would say Bryce Young, Cole Mullins is that end. And then obviously Big Sean is the nose. Who moves to three tech. We'll
good thing you have other players from other classes.
Yeah. Tyson Ford's a redshirt freshman. Devin Houston's going to be more than likely redshirted this year. You still have, Donovan Heinisch from a few years ago who's up to 290-ish. He's going to get some love in here. Still got Jason Anye, who's got 3 years of eligibility left, I believe. No, he's a 21 class, so he's not. Finally, we'll start getting rid of some of these COVID guys, right? So, but Anye's got a handful of class, 3 because he's a redshirt guy. So there's a bunch of guys still on the interior that are going to be building here over the next couple of years.
Yeah, busy time with Notre Dame football recruiting. Wink, wink. Maybe some news coming soon. Stay tuned.
I love
to blueandgold.com. Trash always dropping the interesting super chats. He says, "Is the media bias against Notre Dame real?"
Sure. I mean, all you have to say is, for not the old guys, Mike, the elder guys that could go to those establishments you go to, is 93. I mean, just say 1993. Of course, they're biased. Why do you think all this talk? This is my little conspiracy for my good buddy out there, Mr. Mike Goolsby. My little conspiracy take on all of this Notre Dame join a conference. You know why they want Notre Dame to join a conference? Because they don't want to talk about it. they don't want to talk about him unless they have to within a conference. They just don't. They don't. That could be the bias and whatnot. Even though Notre Dame has been doing this thing for 100+ years, so they have proven they don't need a conference, and that drives people nuts. So is there bias? I mean, probably in awards. How in the world did Quentin Nelson not win the Outland? That's a bias. Are you kidding me? Yeah. So Rocket is. I mean, some Heisman's over the years.
What about the irony in that a lifelong Notre Dame fan is giving that answer? That's kind of the irony there, right? I mean, Rajon's comment here. There's media bias both ways. Like, yes, I've told you guys this story before when I was at the old place working. They flat out told me, this player who's committed to Notre Dame, we don't think he's very good. We're dropping him down to a 4-star outside the national rankings. And if he was not committed to Notre Dame, it would be a 3-star. I remember vividly where I was even standing for that conversation and who I was talking with and everything. So
why is that? It's because Notre Dame sells tickets, right? Notre Dame tickets, web pages, fans in the seats. Those things, they matter, Mike. So if you rank a guy and you put him on a cover and things of that nature, it gets people excited. There's your other, side to the bias right there of giving Notre Dame benefit of the doubt sometimes.
Andrew says we were preseason top 5 last year. It's a fair point, but yeah.
I don't think they're biased. I mean, if Notre Dame's 12-0, they're in the playoffs. They're going to be nationally ranked. That's not a bias.
Media. So media, what people need to understand, we're all just like you guys. We just went to journalism school and, but we all still grew up watching college football, right? So, the guys who grew up hating Notre Dame and now are in national media roles still probably hate Notre Dame. And so, there is, but I still think there is, there's the positives. There's the positives as well. I mean, Marcus Freeman is a pretty damn likable character. Like, I think the media loves Marcus Freeman.
Yeah.
So they're that's kind of been a maybe creating positive bias for Notre Dame.
I mean, there's not a Notre Dame, conference week like the SEC or Big Ten, when they have their conferences get together in July. So what happens? All these national beat writers will go visit Marcus Freeman personally and do interviews, upcoming interviews and things of that nature. So that's Notre Dame. I think the media bias, I think it comes when more so Notre Dame's bad and the bias comes out of they don't talk about them sometimes. There'll be times Notre Dame's not even mentioned on College Game Day after a couple losses and whatnot because they don't want to mention him to give him any press whatsoever. So,
yeah. All right, we're going to talk about a couple of recruits. Linebacker recruits are supposed to be officially visiting Notre Dame this weekend. I wanted to do a full visitor preview kind of deal, but and even though the recruits are flying out Thursday night to get to South Bend, it's still too early. And we're talking 24 hours. I just wanted to give a little bit more time because additions, subtractions to the official visitor list is kind of sketchy. So I don't want to talk about someone and then they don't end up showing, which I'm still kind of nervous about with this list. You just never know. But we're going to talk about 2 guys who are visiting this weekend and get Tim Hyde's thoughts there. From the Washington, D.C. area, which I'm sure people from that area are going to shoot me and say that, no, this is not actually, whatever. You shush. Keyshawn Flowers, Archbishop Spalding High School. Good old 3-star Tim, but pretty strong offer list. I don't know.
Yes.
It's got Miami, Notre Dame.
I want to say he just visited Miami this past week.
Alabama's okay. Penn State, Virginia Tech, USC, Tennessee, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Then you look at Duke, Wake Forest on his offer list. Notre Dame, obviously strong academics. So 6'1.5", 215 pounds is what he's listed at. I want to say we've talked about him a good bit on our shows before, but maybe a little bit a while back. But yeah, what do you think about him?
I mean, he's to me the first thing I know. He's Osbury. He looks like Osbury, who they got last year, smaller in stature. All we've heard for months is length and arm length and width and all this stuff. He has none of that. Yeah. So he's definitely on the shorter side of things. So you could throw that a philosophy. Freeman's only recruiting length through the wall, but he's physical and he's got some really good film. I mean, probably more than half of his film is just him blitzing. So if you like to watch a guy run through holes and knock the heck out of people, it's a heck of a film to watch. But very aggressive. I would definitely, he's definitely an in the box wheel backer down the road, 6'1", your stout 225-ish type of frame down the road, because he's got a lot of athleticism, and those are some of the schools that are recruiting him. So I know he just went to Miami. He raved about his Miami trip. So I was like, oh my gosh, is he even going to visit Notre Dame? Visited Alabama, I think, just a few weeks ago for an unofficial, and they offered him when he was down there. So he's got speed, athleticism, a really good, strong, in-the-box type of football player that could fly the football.
Yeah. Speaking of players, he goes to Miami. Oh, is he even going to make it to Notre Dame? Speaking of that, Jalen McClain, a safety recruit who Notre Dame was going to have this up on campus this weekend, commits to Ohio State after his official visit last weekend.
Yep.
So that's what I was kind of talking about. You just don't know whether they come off the list or Notre Dame gets a commitment in one of these positions, and you don't know. But in terms of Notre Dame standing on for Keyshawn Flowers, it's interesting. There's been several guys who visited this summer, and you're like, it's hard to kind of gauge where Notre Dame is at going into the visit. Guys like Carter Nelson, Bradley Shaw, like players who haven't been around as much, they're from farther out. Just don't know. And you wait, and Notre Dame, it's not like Notre Dame has a fantastic feel either way too. You bring the kids in for the official and see where it goes from there. That's kind of the gist. So I think Notre Dame would be pretty happy if Keyshawn Flowers wanted to commit to the Fighting Irish. Al Golden is pretty active in the DMV and just kind of the East Coast, Northeast region for the Irish. And of course, he's a linebacker too, so that's Golden's territory. Golden's actually a pretty darn good recruiter. I was not super fired up about that hire and thought he was going to be more of a CEO DC, but I've been impressed with him as a defensive coordinator, linebackers coach, recruiter. So yeah, it's Keyshawn Flowers, again, official visiting Notre Dame this weekend. The Irish have 2 linebacker commitments, Bodie Cahoon and Teddy Rizak, but they're going to take 3 linebackers in this class, Tim, and it potentially could be 4.
4.
So,
4 with the guy down south, down the road.
Yeah, they have Bradley Shaw,
yes,
who I think Notre Dame's in pretty good position with. He officially visited last weekend. They bring in Keyshawn Flowers again, most likely. Also, Kingston Viliamu-asa from St. John Bosco. I guess it's a decent high school. Not too bad, Tim. They've had some players go there through the years.
It's not even fair. The guys.
I know.
All three of the linebackers this year are all going, Power 5. They got some guys.
If I were able to go through every single player I've ever interviewed in my career, I bet the school with the highest count it might be St. John Bosco. Because I used to cover some Pac-12 schools, so it would not.
Well, they just had a guy, a 2026 guy just visited, right? I think you reported on you and Kyle recently, and I know there's a handful of other offers they've thrown out. So these guys, talking Freeman, Chad Bowden, these guys, they're being so much more aggressive in the powerhouse known as the Trinity League than the last staff times 1,000. It really is. So fingers crossed something's going to pay off. But with Kingston, I've been saying for months, the only 2 guys I want in this class are Gerby Lambert and Kingston. That's it. The rest of it, I don't care. I mean, he'll fill up how you want them. I want those 2 because I love giant linemen, and Gerby's a large lineman that's violent. And I've said, watching Kingston, I've seen him live. I saw him live as a freshman. He was unbelievable. And then I think he's the most ready to play linebacker that come to Notre Dame since Jalen Smith. I truly believe that. I think he's the guy that could come and play as a freshman. Now, I'm not saying start, get on the field, 25, 30 snaps somehow. He is a technician. He is violent, physical, a 4-year starter in the best high school program in the country, if not, 1A, 1B, them in modern day. And he would have no issues coming in January, getting his feet wet and knowing how to play football at the Notre Dame level, because that's what Bosco is. They're a national powerhouse that knows how to work and does the things Notre Dame does. So I hope, obviously the final 3, you could talk about that, Mike, is a battleground. You predicted him to Notre Dame. I'm going to hold you to that. but I won't. Obviously, it's predictions, correct? But he is a flat out dude. So let's light some candles, Notre Dame fans, and go to the grotto, wherever your local Catholic church is, and say, come on home, Kingston.
All right, so official visits back to back to back. USC June 9th. School he's visited 9 times. Ohio State.
Oh, they're an hour. 30 minutes away from his house, probably 20.
Right. Ohio State next weekend, and of course Notre Dame this weekend. He went a year without visiting campus, right to the date, spring game 2022 to spring game 2023, and then the key was for Notre Dame to get him on campus twice this year before he commits.
Yep.
And that's what they're doing. He, to my knowledge, visiting this weekend. Yep. So for all of I'll talk to USC people, Ohio State, different reporters and industry sources, I like to call them. Oh, USC feels good. Oh, Ohio State feels good. Oh, Notre Dame feels good. Just do visits, take the visits, and then
see how it goes.
And then see how it goes. Like, I know folks want me to give them the juicy intel about the, will the aunt's barber, or his aunt's hairdresser, went to school with, Pete Bevekwa. I don't know. I don't have that for you, but just the read on this recruitment is he's going to take the officials.
Yeah.
Like, this is a high profile major prospect. For some of these guys who come to Notre Dame can squeeze them, right? Be like, all right, listen, do you want this or not?
Yes.
For Kingston viliamu-asa, you're not doing that, right? Because then he'll say, kick rocks. Like, I'm doing this my way. Like, I'm going through the process how I want it. He's in that position. So I think that this is going to be a deal where he takes his officials, it is down to those 3 schools, and then he's going to have some big ceremony on, streamed on local media or, on one of the CBS or whatever, and do it that way. And you just hope that he had the best time at Notre Dame. But
yeah,
this staff has put in some work on this recruitment, and that we also had a comment here.
You
guys prefer Bradley Shaw or Kingston viliamu-asa? Notre Dame would gladly take both and have 4 linebackers, so it doesn't.
Yeah. You want a guy going to Ohio State or a guy going to Alabama? Take them both. Take them both. They're and let's I'm sure something tells me him and Junior Tuihalamaka will be
there you go,
hanging out. I'm sure Junior is going to be his host, and because obviously Junior played at a high-end Catholic school, Alamany, in the Los Angeles Valley, and I'm pretty sure those 2 guys know each other quite well. So that'll be a good host. So,
do you like this comment here, Matt? Do you like this comment from Matt?
Hyde? Hey, I'll take that, because because if that means he's coming to Notre Dame, I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take it.
Comment.
I love this football player. I think you want to talk about rankings. It's like, I'm like, how is he not a 5-star? That I do not understand, because his film is freakish. Where he plays is freakish. How in the world is he not one of the top 25 players in the country? But so be it. He's top 100. We'll go from there. He is a legit linebacker.
Yeah. David makes a good point here, saying, I wish we had the last visit instead of the middle visit. Ohio State gets the last visit, and they've been very good at closing, especially now that they have Laurinaitis. Yeah, and Ohio State's a major factor in the recruitment as well. In terms of the rankings, right, top 100 player, Rivals has him listed as a borderline 5-star. We won't talk about on 3's ranking.
On 3, my guy Asa and everyone CJ Carr. What's going on?
I don't agree here, man. But anyways, I can tell you that Notre Dame views him as a player that they will take him no matter what. They could have 8 linebacker commitments. They're still taking Kingston.
And real quick on the visit thing, that has always been overblown. Like, do you go 1, 2, or 3? I mean, if you like the school, you like the school. So it's there's always going to be a high off of these things. You just talked about the safety. Notre Dame, who's a really good football player, is trying to get the visit, and he went to Ohio State, just said, I'm done. Which, if something as Mike, historically, if that happens, he's going into that visit. This is my number 1.
So you're saying the other way of it kind of can be good to go first, because if he loves it enough, he'll just commit.
Yes. And Notre Dame, obviously, some of the commits have done that. So as they go into their visit. Look at with Logan Thomas just recently, and I mean, there's been a bunch of guys that have visited and committed. Jesus, losing track of all of them. It feels like there's so many. So, yeah, I don't buy. Oh, they got him last. They got him this. No, each program's going to do their own certain thing. Like SC threw out everything. I mean, my gosh, they got Troy Polamalu out to go and hang out with him, for crying out loud. So they bringing out the Polynesian love to try and get Asa to stay. Notre Dame's going to do what they do, Notre Dame wise. And Ohio State, by the way, Ohio State, people don't realize this. They got a St. John Bosco linebacker on their program who signed in 2020. I forget his name, but he was all world everything out of St. John Bosco. So there is a Bosco guy on campus. Before that, they had Wyatt Davis out of Bosco, went to Ohio State. He was all Big Ten, and he's in the NFL. So there has been some Bosco feelers, and Ohio State has recruited the heck out of the Trinity League for years. So, we'll see what happens. So he's got friends all over the place.
Yeah.
And that goes back to Tuli Alamaka, which I wouldn't be surprised if he's got buddies, if he's buddies with him, and you got two Catholic League guys who probably know each other.
Yeah. Busy time in Notre Dame football recruiting. And Tim, they're at 19 commitments. If you get Tay Johnson, you're at 20. And then it's really just like addition. Like, you need one more safety after that. Yes. And you need one more linebacker, right? So
it was a luxury after they get one more safety, correct?
And linebacker. They need 3 linebackers. They want 3 linebackers. So 2 more safeties. So 19 commits right now. 2 more safeties would be 21. Another linebacker is 22. From there, it's your Justin Scotts, your Elijah Rushings, your Kingston viliamu-asas, your
Nelson, right? The tight end in Nebraska. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Well, I would include Shaw as the third.
Okay. I'm just saying where he's from, and the fact that Notre Dame doesn't get guys like that is icing on the cake, instead of trying to count him as a number, I guess I would say.
And then but I still think, knowing this Marcus Freeman staff and how much they believe in their own evaluations, they're going to be like, all right, we want this kid. We believe he's a freak show. Like how they identified Isaiah Cannon when you guys all thought it was a terrible offer by Notre Dame. This unranked kid with an Indiana offer, Notre Dame. Well, yeah, now he's top 100 recruit per on 3. So, I think that they'll probably be like, all right, we're going to go get a 4th receiver, or if Carter Nelson goes elsewhere, then they identify some second tight end. Some don't get Gerby, then they go get some other offense. I think they'll do something like that. I think it'll be around 24, 25.
Yeah, it'd be kind of like going after, I'm sure they're keeping tabs and talking to guys like they did with Minchie, and then when something happens, you go late on some guys. Adric Estime, for crying out loud. You talked about that a few weeks ago, that recruitment, how that happens so fast, so late. Even Ian Book, people always forget about Ian Book. Ian Book was committed to Washington State, came back from vacation, goes and visits South Bend, commits the next day. He's like, I got past it, in August, I believe. So, yeah, sometimes you just never know. But, you close, like you're saying, at least 2 safeties, and then the rest is just some high-end players out there. They could fill the bottom of this class out, which would be awesome.
All right, last item, Tim. As I mentioned earlier in the show, 73 days until Notre Dame versus Navy. So our guys at blueandgold.com, our beat writers, have been doing this series where you take a day, and tomorrow will be 72 days until Notre Dame football, and they'll have some discussion around the number 72. Right? This is the fun of being the team beat writer in June. It's very slow and boring, whereas the recruiting side of things is very exciting. But the topic here: can Andrew Kristofic, of course, who wears number 73. Jack Sobel, by the way, new Blue and Gold beat writer. Follow him on Twitter at Jack Sobel, SOBLE 56. Follow him on Twitter. Tweet at him, hey, Mike Singer told me to follow you. I think he'll get a kick out of that. He's going to text me and be like, hey, why are these people saying, hey, Mike Singer, what are you doing? Just do it, all right? At Jack Sobel 56. So, yeah, his article, can Andrew Kristofic fill the right guard hole? So, Tim, what are your thoughts?
Can he? Yes. End of the show.
Will
yeah, I mean, can he? Will he? I've gone on record. I'm pulling for Rocco. I'm pulling for Rocco Spindler at that right guard, just because I'm always a fan of, obviously, today, but I'm already thinking
Drinking.
about College Station and playing that with only Billy Schrouf is a returning lineman in College Station game 1. It would be nice if you have 2. So hopefully Rocco beats him out. But no, I mean, he's got obviously the experience. He's got the leg up. I thought Rocco, going back to a spring game, I know we don't over evaluate spring games and spring games don't count, says so many fans, yet he looked physical, really active. I liked him more than Kristofik in that game as far as a punisher, more violent point of attack. So we'll see. But Kristofik's, fifth-year senior. He's got experience. He's got all those starts from 2001, which, I've always been interested. I've always been surprised they haven't put him next to Joe Alt, since they finished those last 7 games together. So, but I guess they like Billy over there and we're okay with that. So, but no, I'm excited. Once again, going in, there's so many battles are pretty much completed now. And right guard's probably the last true battle coming up in this camp of what we need to figure out going into Navy.
All right, last comment, and then we're closing off today's show. Frank, Sarah, I recognize the name. I know you're a balloongold.com member. I appreciate it. Your support. He says, are you disappointed with Notre Dame's lack of commitments? Okay, so today is June 14th. Notre Dame has landed 3 new football commitments this month. So that's what, a little over every 3 days they're getting a commitment, right? Is my math? Is that correct?
They've gotten
a little over 4 days.
Oh my! Right? I mean, the running back, geez Louise, that's what I'm saying, Mike. You have Young, who's a top 200 football player, with the 4th ranked back in the state of Texas. Which
it's the amount.
You got Sean, you got Seviano. Is it Seviano? And then you got Logan Thomas, another.
Well, that was May.
That was May. So
3: Kedron Young, Styles Prescott.
My fault. Jeez Louise. Okay, I thought Thomas.
And Sean Sevillano. Well, the thing is, it's still just the middle of June. I would put
19 people. It's like, hold on.
They don't have many more to.
No, they're at 19.
So this is the thing. I would put the over under on June commitments right now at 5.5 total. So they already have 3. So do they get 3 more this month?
Well, 2 of them have to be a safety, correct? With the way recruiting is going there.
There's the 2025 class.
Oh, you're going to count. Okay, that's right. There are guys visiting.
2027.
27, geez Louise.
Yeah.
But by the way, I absolutely love when you and Kyle, you guys talk about 2026. That is just awesome. I'm like, who's the coaching staff? What are the odds? Because I always love these just 2026, like the wide receiver. Oh, I love Coach Stuckey. He's awesome. I'm like, he ain't gonna be your coach in 2026. But anyway, but you can love them all you want right now. But that's
one of the mysteries of college football for me.
Yeah,
always has, Tim. I'm like, I get that the kids are kind of naive in that.
I know.
But you would think the high school coaches aren't.
Hey, and recruiting, man, oh my God, I've had so many Power 5 guys I've coached, and I've always talked about that. Like, listen, go to the school you want to go to school at. Obviously, football program, head coach. Don't put, which kills me with the laryngitis, and he's a GA. I think you even talked about this. He can be gone next year, and everyone's putting all their eggs in, well, I want to be coached by James Laurinaitis. He may be there 6 more months, buddy.
Dude, I didn't think Reese was going to be here this year. I said that for a while.
Yeah, you actually did. That he was probably going to be one and done and go back home, which he did. And I used to tell my kids all the time, whatever assistant's recruiting you, he could be gone because his best friend gets a head coaching job here and he's going to pull him from such and such. Happens all the time in coaching. So, yeah, I always love the 2000. I don't even. If you write a 2027 story, I'm not clicking on it. So I'm not even going to worry about it.
I don't think I have. I think I've written a few 2026.
Yes, a handful of 26s. Yes.
I remember my first year covering college football recruiting was the 2014 class. And I remember USF, the school I was covering at the time, offered a 2016. And I was like, 2016? That's so long. I was like, that's literally never going to happen. It's so far away.
Now it's
And now that kid, that player probably has like 3 kids, and he's got a master's degree, and so
and now we've got, as I like this, the pot of gold day basically kicks off 18 months in advance signing day for that class, which is just unheard of at Notre Dame, the way things used to do it. But that's the way it works now, which means the staff's working this tail off to get out 75 offers. It means they collect a lot of transcripts, a lot of interviews, a lot of calls ahead of time, a lot of visits. So it's a meat grinder those guys are doing behind the scenes in the recruiting office.
All right, that is going to wrap up this week's show. If you're just joining us here recently, go ahead and rewind. If you just joined in 10 minutes ago or 15 minutes ago, just scroll back to the beginning of the show. Check it out. See what you missed on. A lot of good topics of discussion today. So please do hit that thumbs up, whether you're watching live or watching back, listen via podcast. Head over to blueandgold.com, please, and leave us a kind review wherever you listen to your podcast. That's going to do it, Tim. Hope you had a fun show with us. Yeah. Good night, Tim. Yeah.
Good stuff. See everyone next week. Enjoy the week.
All right, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. There's going to be like 5 things happen between now and next Wednesday, so we'll see you.
Yeah, there was a quarterback offer, and now he looks like he's already committed to another school, so we couldn't even talk about him. There's always –
I love that kid.
There's always something. But all right, that's going to do it for this week's show. Appreciate you, everyone, and as always, we will catch you next time.